Hey friends, Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the first album from a Brazilian metal band, and their album comes out today, so this is very exciting for me. This is my review of Making Noise Living Fast by HellgardeN. So let's go with a little bit of a background on HellgardeN before we jump into Making Noise Living Fast. The band formed in 2015, and in 2017 they started playing live shows, started playing at festivals, and working on this album. Now, in 2020, they signed with Brutal Records here in the United States to help them release their first album on April 10th, 2020, and that is the day we are releasing this video. So why are we doing this one, and why is this one big for me? It is because 2 weeks before the album was set to drop, I got an email from either the band themselves or the record company saying, we would love for you to review this album, review this record, and let us know what you think to help promote it. And I thought, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. Should I go for it? Should I not go for it? And, well, we're here. So let's get into Making Noise Living Fast by HellgardeN. Let's get it on! Woo! Get it on! So, of course, I started with the construction, composition, instrumentation on this album. And when I say that HellgardeN really has gone full in that thrash metal, groove metal style, I really do mean it. They are very consistent in that style with what it brings up. You're taking a look at examples like Slayer and Metallica for that thrash metal style, but they're much more groove metal, so think Pantera very fully on this album. And when you're listening to this, when you get those tropes, you're going to hear a lot of double kicks from the drummer. You're going to hear a lot of down-tune, heavy guitar riffs from the guitars. But also when you're listening to the guitar solos on this, one thing you're going to see is more of like an 80s shredding style guitar solo. So it does bring a little bit of a difference in there. In this case, think of like Eddie Van Halen, but not necessarily Eddie Van Halen. Again, I'm bringing these up not as a direct comparison, but as a comparison for you. Like, oh, if you like it, go check it out. So there's a comparison for it, but let's keep going on, shall we? So overall, what I really thought about this consistent construction was something where they really have perfected that sound with groove metal and thrash metal. But one thing I was afraid of was this might put them in a box. And the reason why I think this might put HellgardeN in a box, because they really focused in heavily on that style and didn't deviate from it way too much to the point where fans might put them in a box. And the reason I think that is because for myself, I am not the biggest groove metal thrash metal fan. I'm much more into that punk rock, hard rock, and for metal, love metalcore, hence the Motionless in White t-shirt. But I do think that in the end, with that consistent sound with the guitar solos and with that heavy groove metal and thrash metal drum beats out and the down-tuned guitar, they really did perfect that, and they were showing consistency on that throughout. The guitar solos, yes, they were very consistent as well with that, shredding style. One thing I did like about this album, though, was on the lead single, Learn to Play Dirty, where the transition between the breakdown and the chorus, the breakdown sounded like it could be something off of Psycho by Muse, but then it goes like Walk by Pantera, and the transition between that was incredible, so I do have to applaud HellgardeN on that. One thing I specifically liked about the construction of this album was the song Brainwash. It is the longest song on the record, but it is the most vibrant, the most experimental, and the most vivid. Because it starts out with this hard, very thrash metal Slayer kind of style as it starts out in the song. But as you get to about halfway through, all of a sudden, they slow it up. They draw out the guitar a little bit more. They go less heavy on the double kicks with the drums. So you get this softer, more classic groove metal and thrash metal sound. It's like, okay, it's classic, a little bit more drawn back, but then all of a sudden, 1/4 of the song left to go, they go even harder than they went before. And what I thought was, this song might be my favorite overall because they had this longer song. I thought this might get a little stale, but they didn't get stale at all. They took the pace and they had it hard, and they went a little bit softer, and then they really went hard, and they transitioned through that very well. So I think they did a great job on that. Now I'm going to jump into the vocal performance on this album. And one thing I think about this album is it's very consistent with the vocal performance when it comes to Diego's vocals. He's the lead singer on this one. And when you listen to it, he's very consistent with that classic groove and thrash metal style vocals, where it's not unclean with those deep screams like you hear guys like Jesse Leach do or Tim Lambesis do, just the two guys that came in my head while I was shooting this, with their unclean vocal style. No, this is something that's a lot rougher. Think Pantera, think James Hetfield from Metallica. It's rougher, but it's still a clean vocal. It's just grittier, it's rougher. And you listen to the whole entire album, and Diego really hones in on this. And with the genre, the way it is, and the way they go on it, on songs like Spit on Hypocrisy, it really does work out. Do not get me wrong. The one thing that I think about this as well, though, is this potentially could put them into a little bit of a box, but it does stay consistent with that style. What I'm very interested to see is they really set themselves up to show that they can be really good when it comes to groove metal, when it comes to thrash metal. They can stick with the best, but I want to see what happens if they can experiment a little bit more, because I saw glimpses of Diego's vocals where they went a little bit higher, but they still kept that rough sound to them. I thought I would love to see what would happen had they gone a little bit more experimental with the vocals. Like, oh, let's just see what happens if we tweak this a little bit here. If we try this to go with a little bit of a higher sound, tweak the vocals a bit, not to have that consistent groove metal and thrash metal sound for myself. I would have loved to have seen it, but when it comes to the consistency, I have to applaud them for it. So let's go to the themes of the album and how they play off with the style. And when I talked to Mateos, the drummer for HellgardeN, we talked and I got to an understanding of what they wrote this album about. And they really spoke about this from the heart and from their experiences in dealing with life in Brazil and some of the problems that they're facing in Brazil, such as high poverty rates, especially in Rio de Janeiro, and the crime and corruption that goes on in Brazil. And I really do kind of like this idea because they're really going personal with it. They're really trying to make change with their music within their country. And I thought, this is kind of punk rocky. This is kind of Rise Against like. Ooh. But how does this play off with the styles of the songs overall? If they're very consistent thrash and groove metal, you're going to get that anger to come across. You're going to get that frustration to come across. But I did connect with this a little bit more due to the fact that I do feel like there's a little bit more heart involved in this. I feel like they really put the time and effort to really put that in their music, to put the roughness in their music, to really pump up the adrenaline and to pump up the feelings of we're not going to stand for this anymore. Like Brainwash, he's talking about, being brainwashed into thinking one way or another to really not pay attention to the problems and kind of let them go by the wayside. Spit on Hypocrisy, trying to, show up to stand up against politicians that are saying one thing and doing the opposite, which are promising you things and then never delivering. And then learning to play dirty, basically noticing it all and then learning to retaliate against it. So overall, that thrash metal, groove metal style, just that rough style that really drives home at it, I think they did a good job on this one. Alrighty, now time for my rating on Making Noise Living Fast by HellgardeN. And my rating is... I'm going to give HellgardeN's debut album, Making Noise Living Fast, a modest 6 out of 10. So what I like about Making Noise Living Fast by HellgardeN, with it being their debut album, rating a 6 out of 10. Let me tell you, the instrumentation on Brainwash is the best thing about this album. For a 6-minute song, when they start out with that hard thrash metal style that Slayer really could pull off to just drive the song home, then all of a sudden halfway through, they go more groove metal, but pull it back, draw out the guitars a little bit more, and they transition to that very well to kind of slow it up a little bit to give you a little bit of a fresher taste. All of a sudden, closer to the end of the song, they go back into that hard thrash metal style, but they really amp up the energy and they amp up the pace overall. It keeps the song clean, crisp, fresh. The transitions are perfect, and I absolutely love it. One of the things I liked about this album was the guitar solos, but that is to an extent. I love the mixture of bringing in more of a shredding 80s Eddie Van Halen style guitar solo in a lot of these songs, because it is the thing that stands out the most on these songs for me in particular. However, where this comes to an extent is because they use this many, many times, and over time it does lose some of its power, in my opinion. Then you take a look at the lead single, Learn to Play Dirty. I think this is another one of the most underrated parts on this album, is when they're going between that breakdown to the chorus in the instrumentation, where they mix in a song like Psycho by Muse with the intro to it, so all of a sudden going into like a Walk by Pantera style. That mixture was crisp and clean and well done, especially in the transition. I thought that was where this album really stood tall. Okay, so what was I a little bit more cautious on this album and really didn't care for? One thing I didn't care for was how consistent the vocals were in the style that they were in. With Diego's vocals on this album, he stuck with this incredible, hard, rougher, grittier, but cleaner style vocal throughout the whole entire album. And don't get me wrong, I did applaud his consistency on this because it really works well within the genre and the style of music that they were going with at this time. However, where I didn't necessarily like it and why I have it on my dislike section is because it was so rather narrow on this end, when I thought there were plenty of different times where they could have expanded on the vocal range, expanded on those sounds, and if they had done that, these songs would have even more diversity and density to them, for even more for people to really latch onto and really get associated with them. So I thought that was something that could have easily been improved on this album, but that could be something improved going forward. One other thing I didn't care for as much on this album was the consistency within that thrash metal and groove metal style. Now, I totally get that that's their style as well, and this is my personal opinion, so please, if you have another opinion and you like that style of music, totally go for it. It's not my favorite, and I saw that there were times where they could definitely tweak some things, maybe go with a little bit more of like a metalcore style, maybe something more of like a death metal style, even just completely just give us a little bit more of a diversity in that metal style. And I thought that's something they could have easily done, but for a debut album to go with that consistent style, I do think it was a good move by the band. I think exploring a little bit more of those different sounds though could have been better. Now time for my final thought, and looking at Making Noise Living Fast by HellgardeN, this is a debut album that sets them up for a lot of great things, and that's why I think it has a lot of potential going forward. If you like groove metal and thrash metal, yes, you're absolutely going to love sound because it is very consistent with those styles, and they really work well on that specific part of their craft. For my spot specifically, I do think they made a good move on that. However, they leave the door open for so many things on this album with experimentation with a couple of different styles within that groove metal, thrash metal style that they really are well known for now at the moment. And with the vocals where they could expand even further on that. I do like what they do when they mix instrumentations like on Learn to Play Dirty and Brainwash. However, I think they did a little bit too little on this album. But overall, with the final thought, I do have to say this. For a debut album, I think this album really opens up a lot of broad horizons for HellgardeN, and I think they can really take their sound and grow it in so many different ways because they showed they know what they're doing, and now let's see what happens as they grow. Alright, that's it for me. Thank you for watching my review of Making Noise Living Fast, the debut album from a Brazilian metal band called HellgardeN. If you liked the video, give me a like. If you dislike it, give me a dislike, but put in the comments why you like, dislike it, listen to the album, your review on it, and let me know what you think. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you're notified every time we release videos every single Wednesday, the podcast episodes on Tuesday, and any other time we release anything, which we've been doing a lot of, so make sure you're notified. Get those out of here, and please follow us on all our social media platforms, such as Facebook. Anytime anything gets released, you're going to want to go on Facebook. Twitter, you're going to find out the same thing, but it's really easy to talk to us, so go talk to us on Twitter. Instagram, that is our biggest platform to date. You can do all that stuff for the 30-second Song of the Day preview, the podcast episodes, the video announcements, all the questions we ask, that's all on there. Plus, we have an IGTV channel where you get a behind-the-scenes look at a vlog we do every single Tuesday, so you know what's going on behind the scenes here. And every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central, we go on Instagram Live. We do a live stream for an hour. You guys can come talk to us, talk to me, and we just have a fun time talking music or whatever the hell comes our way. So, links in the description below to follow us on all those. Get that out of here. Let's talk about the Chord Progression Podcast. It is our very own podcast where we've been talking to a lot of bands that are emerging in the scene. And honestly, you're going to want to listen to the one the day after this video is released because we get to talk to Mateus, the drummer for HellgardeN. So that's all coming up. So you get to take a look and listen and really feel what I felt when I got to talk to them and really feel what they felt writing this album. So you can watch that on YouTube right here, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Play. link description below, get that out of here. And if you're not able to our Amazon Alexa skill, please go and do that right now, because that is where you can hear the whole entire Song of the Day feature. Now, the Song of the Day feature is the most important thing we do here at My Song of the Day, because it is what helps build our community. It helps you fall in love with bands you used to love, fall in love with new bands you're gonna love, rediscover all this old music and discover new music. And our Small Band Saturday feature helps you get in the know with some smaller bands that are emerging in the scene that might be the biggest bands at the end of the 2020s. And it allows you to really talk and connect with a lot of other fans in that music genre and the music scene. So please join us on everything, link description below, and I want to thank you guys for watching this video. This was a first for me to do one on the day that the album came out and listen to the album beforehand, so I'm super excited about that. Can't wait to get more of these in the future, but until then, this is Kevin from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day YouTube channel. You guys know how I end all these videos. I missed it, but see ya!